Once upon a time, in a kingdom with rivers like ribbons and towers that gleamed like morning, there lived an old queen and her daughter, a princess with bright eyes and a braver heart than she knew. When the princess grew up, she was promised to a prince from a faraway land. The old queen packed a splendid dowry, cups and combs of silver, necklaces that sparkled like frost, and little treasures tucked into velvet pockets, because love likes to send its children off with blessings. On the morning of parting, the queen pricked her finger gently and dotted 3 drops of blood onto a white cloth. Once upon a time, in a kingdom with rivers like ribbons and towers that gleamed like morning, there lived an old queen and her daughter, a princess with bright eyes and a braver heart than she knew. When the princess grew up, she was promised to a prince from a faraway land. The old queen packed a splendid dowry, cups and combs of silver, necklaces that sparkled like frost, and little treasures tucked into velvet pockets, because love likes to send its children off with blessings. On the morning of parting, the queen pricked her finger gently and dotted 3 drops of blood onto a white cloth. "Carry this close," she said, pressing the folded charm into her daughter's hands. "So long as you keep it, you'll have my love's protection. If you should lose it, keep your wits and your kindness. Those are protections too." They hugged for a long time that smelled like lavender and tears. The princess set out with a chambermaid who was meant to look after her. Each had a horse. The princess's horse was named Falada, and he could speak. He spoke only when he wished to, which is how you knew he was wise. They rode for hours. When the sun climbed and the road shimmered, the princess grew thirsty. "Would you fetch me water from the brook?" she asked gently. "Use my silver cup. I'll hold the reins." The chambermaid huffed. "Get it yourself. I'm no servant." The princess slid down without arguing and knelt to drink from the brook with cupped hands. Falada tossed his mane and murmured so only she could hear, "Oh, little queen, if your mother knew, her heart would break in 2. "Maybe just ache a little," the princess whispered back, smiling sadly. Then she remounted and rode on. By afternoon, they reached another stream. Again, the princess asked for water, and again, the chambermaid refused. The princess bent to drink, and in that moment, the white cloth with its 3 drops of love slipped from her bodice, caught the current, and floated away like a petal. She didn't see it go, but the chambermaid did. Her eyes glittered. When the princess returned to the path, the chambermaid wheeled her horse around. "Listen to me," she said, voice sharp as a nettle. "You will give me your royal gown. You will wear my plain one. You will not breathe a word of this to anyone at court. Swear it under the wide open sky." The princess's heart thumped. She was far from home, and she remembered her mother's warning. If you lose the charm, lean on your wits and kindness. She lifted her chin. "I swear," she said, "because an oath sworn under open heaven is no small thing." Then she unclasped her shimmering gown and handed it over, threading on the chambermaid's simple dress with steady hands. Falada stamped. He had seen everything. "Courage," he breathed. So it happened that the chambermaid sat high on Falada, and the true princess rode the maid's bony nag. They journeyed on. At the faraway palace, there was a flurry of trumpets and banners. The prince, kind eyes, curious smile, hurried out to greet them. He lifted the false bride from Falada and led her inside. thinking she was the promised princess. The true princess waited in the courtyard, hands folded, calm as a candle flame. From a high window, the old king spied her. He saw the shabby dress and the proud, gentle carriage. "Who is that fair girl?" he asked when he met the new-arrived bride. "Oh, her?" the chambermaid said lightly. "Just a companion I picked up along the way. Give her some work so she won't be idle." "Work is good," said the old king, who liked to see what people did when given ordinary tasks. "We've a boy who tends the geese. She can help him." The false bride, sweating a little, remembered Falada. A talking horse can trot out truths at inconvenient times. "Your Majesty," she cooed to the prince, "a favor? That horse I came on, Falada, he upset me on the road. Have him taken away. I cannot bear him near." The prince, wishing to keep his bride happy, nodded. Orders went to the stables. That evening, the true princess slipped out to the stable yard and spoke with the knacker's helper, a soft-hearted fellow who couldn't keep a hat on straight. "Please," she whispered, sliding a small gold coin into his palm, "do me a kindness. Don't let Falada be lost entirely. Keep his bridle and mane. There's a dark archway in town where the geese pass each dawn. If you would craft a carved horse's head there and hang Falada's bridle upon it, well, I think his voice might find me." The helper blinked, looked at the coin, then at the girl's hopeful face. "I can carve," he said, "and I can listen." Before night fell, a wooden horse's head, smooth and proud, hung beneath the arch, with Falada's silver bridle shining. And if you stood quite still, you might almost hear a heartbeat in the wood. At dawn, the princess met Conrad the goose boy, who was all elbows, freckles, and opinions. Together, they drove the geese through the dark gate. The princess looked up. "Alas, Falada, watching there," she murmured. And the wooden head, warm with old magic, replied clear as a bell, "Alas, young queen, passing by, if your mother knew, her heart would break in two." Conrad's eyes went wide as wagon wheels. "Did that?" he began. "Hush," hunked a goose, which is the way geese say, "Mind your manners." They led the flock to a green meadow. The princess sat on a stone and unbound her hair. It spilled like sunlight. Conrad gaped. "It's a treasure!" he cried, reaching out. The princess laughed and sang softly. "Blow, wind, blow. Take Conrad's hat and make him chase it, quick as that, till I have braided up my hair and tied it with a golden pair." Like a loyal friend, the wind leapt to do as asked. It snatched Conrad's cap and tumbled it right across the field. "Hey!" he yelped, and ran, and by the time he came back panting, the princess's hair was braided and pinned. Conrad scowled good-naturedly the whole way home. The next day, the same. Under the arch. "Alas, Falada, watching there," and "Alas, young queen, passing by." Out on the meadow, sunlight, geese, and a cap that kept flying. On the third day, Conrad marched to the old king and threw up his hands. "I cannot tend geese with that girl," he announced. "Why not?" asked the king, hiding a smile. "She talks to a wooden horse that talks back, and then the wind steals my hat whenever she combs her hair. And she's too grand for a goose girl," Conrad finished, surprised by his own honesty. "Said the old king. Take out the flock tomorrow, as usual." At dawn, the old king hid behind the dark archway. Soft as a lullaby he heard her, "Alas, Falada, watching there," and just as softly the answering rhyme. The king's eyebrows climbed. He followed at a distance to the meadow and tucked himself into a thicket. He watched the girl unbind her hair, saw the quick dance of wind, and the way she thanked it like a friend. He went home thinking hard. That evening he sent for the goose girl. "Child," he said kindly, "I am a king, but also a grandfather. Tell me what troubles you." She looked down at her work-worn hands. "Your Majesty, I swore under the open sky that I would not tell any person, and I keep my promises." The king tapped his chin. "Then tell your secret to something that is not a person," he suggested. "In the kitchen, there's an iron stove that has heard more worries than 1,000 pillows. Try that." They went to the warm, quiet kitchen. The king stayed just outside the door, for kings can be sneaky when they must. The princess knelt by the iron stove and whispered into its dark mouth, "Here I sit forgotten by the world, though I am the daughter of a king. A chambermaid forced me from my fine gown and took my place. She rides my Falada and sits beside my bridegroom. I tend geese and keep my oath because I said I would. If my mother knew, her heart would break in two." The iron stove made a sympathetic little clang, like a pot that understands. That was enough for the old king. He stepped in, gentle as ever. "Come out, child." Servants brought silks and a simple crown, and when she stood dressed as herself, the room seemed to glow. The old king sent for his son. The prince arrived, puzzled, and then struck still, as though someone had rung a bell inside him. "Father?" he breathed. "My son," said the king, "the bride set beside you is not your true bride. She is a false chambermaid. Here stands the true princess, who has been tending geese with more grace than most wear crowns." The prince looked once at one face and then the other, and understanding rose in him like dawn. He bowed deeply to the princess. "At last," he said simply, "my true bride." That very evening, the old king held a feast to set things right. The hall glittered. At the long table, the prince sat with the true princess at his right hand and the chambermaid, stiff and pale, at his left. She did not recognize the goose girl she had bullied. After the cakes and music, the old king rose. "Let us play a game," he said lightly. "I'll tell a story. You tell me the ending. Imagine, a girl steals another's clothes and name and place, and lets her do the humble work while she sits in splendor. What should happen to the deceiver?" The chambermaid lifted her chin. In her heart, a tiny thread of fear wriggled, but pride is a loud drummer. "She should be sent away in shame," she said promptly. "Entirely away, with nothing to show for her lies." The old king nodded slowly. "And what if the deceiver were sitting at my table?" he asked, his voice soft but carrying. "What if she had a chance to put right what she broke?" The chambermaid's face went ashen. She stared at the princess, at her eyes, her smile, the familiar tilt of her head, and the truth crashed down. I am sorry," she whispered, her eyes filled. "I wanted what wasn't mine. I thought if I wore the dress, I'd have the heart to match it. I was wrong." The hall went quiet. The geese outside honked as if they too were holding their breath. The old king looked to the princess. "Daughter," he said, for he already loved her like his own, "what justice do you ask?" The princess took a breath. She remembered a silver cup, a dusty road, a voice in wood. "We do not mend wrong with cruelty," she said gently. "Let her return everything she took. Let her ask forgiveness. Then let her learn what true service is. A year in the kitchens and stables, helping where help is needed, under Falada's watching bridle," she added with a small smile, "so she does not forget. After that, she may choose her path. Let her have a chance to change." The chambermaid began to cry, a different kind of crying this time, the kind that waters new things. "I will try," she vowed. "I will do it all." "So it shall be," said the old king, tapping his staff. He turned to the hall. "Hear this. In our house we tell the truth, we keep our oaths, and we give people room to be better." The hall cheered, and somewhere a pot clanged approvingly. The prince and the true princess were married a week later, beneath garlands of green and ribbons of sky. Conrad came to the wedding with his hat firmly tied under his chin, just in case, and the geese walked solemnly past like nobles in white coats. The old queen arrived with hugs and relief and one more handkerchief, just in case. As for Falada's bridle under the arch, it seemed to shine brighter than silver whenever the princess passed. "Alas, Falada, watching there," she would say, and the bridle would chime softly as if answering, "Alas, young queen, passing by." Which is how you know that love and loyalty, once spoken, do not easily fade. The chambermaid kept her promise. She scrubbed and hauled, fed chickens and learned the names of every goose. She listened more than she spoke. And when her year was over, she didn't leave right away. She stayed to help the knacker's helper carve a second horse's head for the gate, one that looked a bit like a girl discovering her better self. As for the princess, she was not the same as the girl who set out with a sparkling dress and a silver cup. She had walked through thirst and silence and small humiliations and found her own voice anyway. She learned that cleverness and kindness make a powerful pair, that the wind is your friend if you ask it politely, and that keeping your oath can lead you right to the people who deserve your trust. They ruled wisely. The prince consulted his princess. The princess listened to her people. And the old king told the story of the goose girl to anyone who needed reminding that courage is often quiet and forgiveness is a magic that grows more magic the more you use it. And if ever you pass beneath a dark archway and feel the air hum with a secret, look up. You might hear a voice like a bell say, "Take heart," which is a very good message to hear, once upon a time or any time at all.